Coach's Corner is your source. Baseball, football, soccer, and hoops. The Coach's Corner has the scoop. It's the Coach's Corner with Andy.
Covering Tri-State sports, it's the Coach's Corner with Andy on 92.1 The GOAT.
It's the Coach's Corner.
Hey, I'm Andy with the Coach's Corner, and we have Skyler Betts here. She's a first-time coach in Hazel, which is Hagerstown Area Youth Soccer League. We got to go back to last season. I actually coached your daughter last, what was it, spring?
Yeah.
That was the spring, right? We're in the fall, right? And she's an excellent soccer player. She was one of my hardest hustlers on the team, and I always called her my defender because she always got back on defense for me, and while all the other kids stood around. But appreciated that a lot. And today we have her mom on here. And so how's the first season going as coach?
It started out I was very stressed. It was a lot at first. Once I got into the swing, I really enjoyed it.
So when I first time coached, because Hazel was my first coaching opportunity too, when my daughter played schoolyard, which was a couple years ago. And your first thought is, I just got to go out there to practice in games. That's it. Show them how to play soccer, make sure they don't hurt each other, make sure they pay attention. It's so much more than that.
Yes.
There's a lot of other aspects to coaching. You develop relationships with the parents. You develop relationships with the players. You have to make sure everything's in line with your players, the games. Now, you don't have to coordinate the games. There's people that do that in the organization. But you still have to be you're that contact point for the team. And it's a lot. And I totally hear you on the stress part. If you decide to do it again, I promise it does get easier. Do you have an assistant? Do you have an assistant coach?
Yeah. So last fall, Avery played, and she had a coach named Mike, and he ended up not coming back this spring. I think he wanted to come back this fall again, and then got an injury. So his son ended up on my team, and I think I was 2 practices in, and he had offered to assist me, and I was like, "All right, you're my assistant coach. I need your help. Come join me." And he did.
It's almost like a lot of people compare it to herding cats, because cats don't listen, and
Yes.
it's basically it. As the season progresses, though, I'm sure you've noticed as well, the kids really start to pay attention more. You develop that routine just like you did when you became a first-time coach. So you're in the U9 division at Hazel, which is ages 7 to 9, right? About,
Yes.
give or take.
Well, 6. Depending on the birthday.
Depending on the birthday, right? That's kind of an important division. That's where the players really start to learn their positions. That's where the goalkeeper is introduced, because the division below U7, where I coach and where I coached Avery at, was there's no goalie, and basically the kids run around in clumps.
Yeah.
And you kind of try to teach them to spread out. Some of them get it, but some don't, which is fine. It's all about having fun. But U9, you kind of the kids kind of just start to develop that competitiveness.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, yes.
They start to develop those positions, and you try to teach them the positions in the field. How do practices go? How are they? What do you do? What do you do in a practice to try to get them to understand that?
So that was part of the needing the assistant coach. I had a team of all boys besides my daughter. And I could yell at them, blow the whistle. I think because I'm more of the mom figure, they just were brush me off. So I was like, I need a male to come over and just reinforce what I was saying, because I was having such a hard time getting their attention. But once we did that, I kind of I practiced the basics at first and tried to get a feel for all the kids, and then went off of how the games went. And as much as I could try to rotate positions to see where their skills are at or where they were most comfortable, which that was also challenging because you have the older kids who had their position set in mind and had already tried out these positions. And then you had the younger kids, Avery was the youngest, but I had a couple that just turned 7 who just went up to U9 also, who were we have a goalie now, and we need to spread out, we need to pass to each other. So at the beginning, it was more so you had those I want to be the superstar players who kind of just tried to do the whole thing by themselves, and I'm like, you guys are killing yourselves. You got to use your teammates. So that was something that we focused on. And then they got really good at passing. So then we had to focus on shooting the ball again and trying to make those goals. So I kind of just went with like what I saw at the game and then tried to fix that at practice. And I know a couple times with having a bunch of 7, 8, 9-year-old boys, they were extremely competitive and just like fighting each other or arguing or like just being mean to each other, which
Yeah.
I don't know why I wasn't expecting that. So then we had to step back and work on like, we're a team. And then halfway through the season, we really worked on like, we're the Tigers and doing our chant. And like, I had to remember like, hey, we need to bring this in. We need to remember we're a family. And a couple of times I've had to take kids out or, pull them aside and be like, hey, we are in U9, we're learning, we're having fun. That's the most important. Winning is not, it's fun. It's not the top priority. And we're a team, we're a family, and that comes first. So it's just throughout the season, it was just focusing on different things that we just needed that week.
Oh, that's great. Being a first-time coach, it sounds like you got it down. So I'm sure the assistant coach helps. When you're in a youth recreational league like that, coaching by yourself is tough.
Yeah.
Especially when it's little kids. So last year when I coached Avery, luckily I had a really good friend on the team. His name's Wes, and he stepped up and he had a son that played as well, and my daughter played on the team too. So he was like, "I'll help you, assistant coach." And he came out. He didn't know anything about soccer, but you don't really have to at that age.
No.
And I do. So it's, it's kind of he was kind of there to help corral them in, and that helps a lot. And it helps in teaching them good sportsmanship, which is key at this age. Development is the most focused thing on in a youth rec league, any sport really. But it's a big step going up from U7. The goals are so much bigger.
Yes.
The field is gigantic to a kid. It can be scary. But so I like what you do. I like when you bring them in. I like the family when you say we're a family. I think that's really cool. And that kind of helps kids, I think, kind of feel more comfortable too. But I'm trying to teach my kids in U7 right now. I have one little guy that plays, and he's all over the field. He's a wonderful player. They all have different aspects that they're really good at, and he can just dribble circles around people. And he's going to go up to U9 next year, and he scores most of our goals. We don't really keep score. But
I think I know exactly who you're talking about.
Silas. Yeah. Silas. Yep. We played against him last year. Yeah. And he'll take the ball to the goal, and I'm like, you can shoot it from out here. Like, you have a big foot.
Yeah.
Give it a shot. Take a shot. There's no goalie. Now's the time to practice. There's going to be a goalie when you move up. Then we'll probably still get it by them. But, like, take the shot. And he's like, okay. And then he starts doing it. And it's just great. The one thing I noticed when I started coaching, when I first did it, especially coming up to U7, the more you do it, the more practices you have, the more they get used to you. It's amazing what they take in and they actually apply.
Yeah.
Kids are just amazing in general. And then when you put a sport into it, it's just like, wow, these kids are only like 6 years old, and they, I blow my whistle and they all line up on the line. It's like, why can't my child listens better at soccer practice than she does at home?
Mine was worse at soccer. I loved coaching, but coaching Avery it might not be it. Or maybe I should step down to an assistant, because she was not about, she wanted me to be the coach until I was. And then she was like, oh, well, that's mom, so I don't have to listen to mom. And I think she struggled a lot with being the very youngest on the team and also being the only girl. So it was a very rough season for her.
Yeah, I was going to say the only girl aspects kind of, not only like we talked about everything changing and becoming so much bigger, scary enough, and then you're on a team with all boys who are competitive. Not saying Avery's not competitive, but it's a different kind of competitiveness when they're used to the league or the division. But Braylon was like that at first, and not in schoolyard, because in that case she didn't really pay attention to that. Parents were out on the field too, and it's a whole different thing when you get to U7. And she would come up to me in games and she'll tug on my shirt and be like, "Dad, I'm hungry." And I'm like, "We're playing soccer. I'm your coach right now. I'm also your dad, but I'm your coach right now." And I'm a little harder on her than any of the others, but I can be. So a lot of the parents will come up to me and be like, don't be afraid to be hard on my kid. And I'm like, why do you want me to be hard on them though? Like, that's not the point. The point
Mhm.
isn't to win the game here. The point is for them to have fun and learn, and enjoy themselves. This is where a key spot where you want the kid to actually want to come back and play soccer when you get to those bigger leagues, like middle school where you're traveling with the soccer team possibly, or when you get to high school, stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so the fall season, your guys' season is complete, right?
Yes.
Okay. So with the season complete and your first season of coaching under your belt, my first question is, are you planning on coming back to coach again?
It really just depends on Avery. I
Okay.
I would like to coach again. Ultimately, I did have a good time, and building those relationships with my team was amazing. Like, I ended up loving all of them for very different reasons, and just like it's almost like you have a new appreciation for other people's children. Like,
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like when you don't have to work with them as much, you could just be like, oh, other people's kids, I just worry about my own. But then it's like once you get to be in that setting, and U9, I'm not like, I'm alone with them on the field. They're not having to go to their parents very much and ask things or like need that reassurance. And my parents are very much like, yell at them, like they're boys.
Yeah.
You got to yell at them. And I'm like, okay. And so I think just like it's just a whole new thing, that age group, because I did build relationships with them, and I was able to joke around because they're at that age where they understand the jokes, and
Yeah.
that brings it a lot more fun. So I had a great time. It's just, it really depends on Avery and how she's feeling, because I don't want to jeopardize our relationship trying to be the coach if she doesn't like it like that. But I'm
Yeah.
open to it because I doubt I'll get stuck with an all boy team again, and that could make the world of difference. Plus having the first season under her belt. So I'm really just playing it by ear. But like this season, I decided to be the coach the night before the coaches meeting because that was the deadline, and I'm like, okay, so I could very much see that happening again.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you talking to me about that because you showed up to the coaches meeting and I was like, "Oh, you're coaching," and you were like, "Yeah, I decided last night I was." So, yeah. Was Avery the main reason you decided to do that, to be with her on the field and just see what it was like, or did you play soccer growing up?
So I played soccer, I would say like maybe a little bit younger than U7 up until I did a little bit of an adult league after I graduated, but I've played soccer
Okay.
my whole life. I love soccer. I don't watch it, but I do love playing it. And Avery was never into it, and then all of a sudden she was, and I was like, okay, well, let's do this. And the first 2 seasons I didn't want to coach at all because we were homeschooling. And I
Mm.
was like, we need that break. She needs to get instruction from somebody else. Like, I'm going to take the back burner. And this year she started first grade, as you know. And I was like, okay, well, then, this might be nice to have that extra time. And they needed a coach. And I had asked her before if she would be okay with me coaching, or if that would be something that she would want just in case, because I know the league is struggling finding coaches and people to
Yeah.
help out. So I ran it by her a few times, and she was all about it. And then I think she was almost disappointed when she thought I wasn't going to coach this season. I don't know if she's disappointed that I did now. I
Yeah.
don't know. It really depended on the day, but it was so many factors into it.
Yeah, I understand. And for a lot of people that may not know, a recreational league like Hagerstown Area Youth Soccer League, coaching is all volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
These people aren't paid. We aren't paid. We don't. No, there's nothing. There's no incentive to it. You're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, and you want to teach the kids. A lot of coaches are a parent of a player on the team. As you get higher up into the divisions, you'll find coaches
Mm-hmm.
probably are more of that like, I want to be a coach, like I want to coach, or I
Yeah,
have
they're
coached
intimidating.
before. Yeah, or I have coached for this many years. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have any kids on the team, but
Yeah.
I enjoy it. So I mean, that's the reason I got into it, is because I mean, I love soccer growing up like you. I
Mm-hmm.
played it all the time. I don't really watch it much either, but I can sit down and watch it if I need
Yeah.
to. I like to watch it live better than I do on TV.
I agree.
Kind of like hockey, which
Mhm.
we'll get into in a little bit. Yeah, that's the main reason I did it. And I was like, why? I have a soccer background, and it'll get me out, and I'll get to get out and run around with Bray, and
Mhm.
that's the main reason I did it. And now if I came back to coach, no offense to my daughter, but it wouldn't be for her. It would be
Yeah.
other reasons. Like I want to teach other kids. I really enjoy it. And I plan on when Bray moves up to U9, I have to make the decision because my youngest Hadley is going to start playing,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really want to coach schoolyard because
Yeah.
I've done that before. I want to kind of do the game, so I think I'm going to stick with coaching Bray. Just coach one kid at a time. So, yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But so when did you play any in high school soccer?
I didn't play for my high school. I played
Okay.
Hazel basically the entire time.
Oh, okay. You were a Hazel kid too.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up playing too. I think I played all the way up through to high school. I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
because I'm pretty sure they have leagues to where you can move all the way up before you go into ninth grade. I'm pretty
Yes,
sure.
and then
Yeah.
I played. I'm pretty sure up until I was 18. I think that's my birthday's in the spring, and I think that was my last spring season was
Yeah.
18, and I was on 3 teams through Hazel. We had so many girls so I was on technically 2 girls teams, and one was a travel, but we had too many for one team, but not enough for 2. So half of us played for both. And then I also
Gotcha.
did the co-ed team, and I'm like, where's that stamina to play 3 games in one day like I used to have?
Right. I couldn't even get through half a game probably today. So when you get your players out on the field, so there's how many players do you field on a team?
7.
7. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's just 7 on 7. Do you guys just have 7 or do you have like more than 7? Do you set to sub any in and out?
I started with 11, and
Okay.
then we lost 1 kid, so we were down to 10, which is good. If all of them are there, you get like 3 subs. So
Yeah.
that it's good, but it's also very stressful trying to make sure that they all play enough.
Yeah. I
I
can't remember
almost
who
like
I
the
sub in
game.
and out. Yeah.
Yeah, I almost like the games where like I'm missing a couple, and I'm like, oh, okay, I only have to sub 1 kid
Mhm.
at a time.
I totally understand.
Mhm.
So Hazel's also a great league to get your kids started in if they don't know if they want to play or not.
Mhm.
Then don't get me wrong, all of the other like traveling leagues, like I talked to Alan who runs LFC, which is Liverpool Football Club in
Mhm.
the Western Maryland, Hagerstown. Great organization. My 2 nephews play for him under that league there, and they learn so much. But in those kind of leagues, it's a little more pricey to get into,
Yes.
which is understandable because there's more equipment provided. There's
Mhm.
more amenities that go along with being in the club. With Hazel, I mean, you do have to pay a fee to register, but it's minimal.
Yeah.
And if your kid comes back, I believe you get a little bit of a discount or something
Mhm.
like that if they come back. So if they start to like it and you want to stick with it, and it does have that family aspect, especially with your parents that you develop those relationships with your parents.
Mhm.
Because like when I coached last year for the first time, I've noticed when I moved up to U7, those relationships were more than when in the schoolyard because
Yeah.
the parents, I don't want to say the parents don't care during those younger years, but there's more concern for your kid playing
Mhm.
when they're older and it's an actual game and you want them to be happy and succeed. Like you, for instance, we're still in touch, and I always joke we see you guys everywhere
Yes.
now. And before then, I didn't know who you guys were,
Mhm.
And now Avery and Bray go to the same school. We see you guys so like
And
just
gymnastics.
and
I
gymnastics.
see
That's
Bray
right.
at
Yes.
gymnastics.
That's right. And they just had their showcase the other
Mhm.
this past weekend. Yeah. So it's like relationships like that are probably the coolest part about doing a recreational league like that. Not saying they don't exist in others, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's more laid back. It's a more comfortable setting, and that's what Hazel is all about,
Mhm.
and other recreational leagues as well. But all right. So before we go, you told me before we started you like hockey.
Yes.
Have you always grown up liking hockey? Did you recently get into it? And you're a Caps fan, right?
Yes.
Okay,
I would say
good.
about middle school is when I got really
Okay.
into it.
How'd you get into hockey?
My dad liked hockey,
Okay.
and I just decided to actually, my dad liked hockey. He wanted to go to a hockey game, and we started out with Hershey Bears. So if you want to get your kids into sports or like trying to test the waters to take them to an actual game, going to the minors is perfect because going to the Hershey Bears game was really what like got me into it, and it's a
Yeah.
lot less. It's a lot less dangerous walking to your seats in general because it's not so many seats. But
Yeah.
it's a lot more low key. It's a lot less money, and you can kind of test the waters. And that's pretty much what he did with me and my brother. And we were hooked after that. And I was watching every single game I could after that for the Capitals. And then Hershey Bears aren't really televised much, but I would keep up with them too, and had players and jerseys for both. And that was
Nice.
kind of like our thing.
The Hershey Bears are the minor league team for the Caps, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I've had a lot of friends that are really into hockey, and that's how they say they got into it too. They went to a Bears game, a Hershey Bears game, and kind of got to experience it. And everybody who's a huge hockey fan that I know says, if you're not into hockey or you're unsure of it, go to a game. Going to a hockey game will totally change your perspective. Going to a game in general will change your perspective about any sport. But hockey's like this hybrid, awesome, kind of almost unbelievable, like, wow, is this really happening? Because if you think about it, it kind of combines all the sports. The skating part, obviously the hockey stick, kind of like a baseball bat, thin, you're hitting a small puck. You have a goalie, like in soccer. And then the football aspect, you're hitting the crap out of everybody.
Yeah.
So, like, it kind of combines all the sports, most of the main sports, into one.
You can also kick the puck. You
can, yes. There you go. Yes, that's true. And you can pick it up too, like a baseball.
Exactly.
So,
just toss it out there.
Yeah, hockey is definitely a unique sport and a very good sport to be into, and like especially if you're a Caps fan. Caps are pretty good. They're doing all right. I've been following them a little bit here too. So hopefully they can make another Stanley Cup run. I know they didn't have such a hot end of the season last year.
Yeah.
But and I just talked to my one friend Sean the other day. I had him on here, and we were talking about the Caps, and he's a big Caps fan. And his favorite player is Ovechkin. That's who he loves. And we were talking about, possibly when he would retire, or if he'll break the record for, goals scored. And
he better not retire before he breaks that record.
I know that's what he said. You got to break the record before you hang it up.
It would be dumb for him to stop now.
Right.
It's so close.
Exactly. All right. Well, Skyler, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you today. If you decide to come back and coach next year, good luck to you.
Thank you.
If not, perfectly fine. I'm sure this year has taught you a lot. Like you said, you learned a lot of lessons. You made a lot of relationships, and that's what it's all about. Thanks for coming on and chatting with me today.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
If you'd like to be featured on the Coach's Corner with Andy, email coach at 921thegoat.com.